Unit 1 Review, Problem 3. Use appropriate descriptive statistics methods to describe the important characteristics of the data collected in Problem 2. There are three important characteristics to describe: the distribution, central tendency, and dispersion. In order to know which of the several descriptive statistics methods we've learned that would be appropriate to use to describe these important characteristics, we need to know what type of data we have. Here, the data in Problem 2 was the favorite fruit to eat of students attending Tahoe Elementary School. The favorite fruit to eat, whether it be apple, banana, grapes, is qualitative data. So with qualitative data, we can use a distribution table, Pareto chart, or pie chart to describe the distribution, that is the pattern or shape of the data. We use the mode to describe the central tendency, or average of the data, and the variation ratio to describe the dispersion, or the variation within the data. Since we've already constructed a distribution table in Problem 3, we will just use the distribution table to help describe the distribution here, instead of constructing a Pareto chart or pie chart. So, since children's favorite fruit to eat involves qualitative data, a distribution table, the mode, and the variation ratio would be appropriate descriptive statistics methods to describe the distribution, central tendency, and dispersion of this data. That is, the three important characteristics to describe. So, using the table that was already constructed in Problem 2, we can see that we have the distribution. That is, we see that there are 44.8% of the students selected apple as their favorite fruit, 24.1% selected grapes, 13.8% selected banana, 12.1% selected orange, and 5.2% picked strawberries. Also, by looking at our distribution table, we can see the mode. The mode is the data value or values that occur most frequently. That is, has the highest frequency or the highest percentage. Looking at this table, we could see that the highest percentage was the 44.8% of the students who selected apple as their favorite fruit to eat. So the mode of the data values here is apple, because apple was the most frequently mentioned favorite fruit to eat of the students in this sample. So the mode is apple. That describes the central tendency. To describe the dispersion, we calculate the variation ratio. The variation ratio is calculated by finding the percentage of all the data values that did not occur at the mode. So since 44.8% of the students selected apple, which was the mode, all of the rest, 100%, minus the 44.8% that selected apple, leaves you with 55.2% of students who selected something other than the mode. So the variation ratio is equal to 55.2%. That's the percentage of all the data. That is, the percentage of all the other favorite fruits to eat that were mentioned by students that were not at the mode, or apple. So to provide a description of the important characteristics, we need to use these appropriate descriptive statistics methods that we have here and write a description. That is, we have to write in words of the problem what each of these things are telling us: the mode, the variation ratio, and the distribution. So our written description answer to Problem 3 could be the following. When children attending Tahoe Elementary School were asked the question, "What is your favorite fruit to eat?" most of them mentioned an apple. Grapes were the favorite fruit to eat by 24.1% of the children. A banana was selected by 13.8%, and an orange was picked by 12.1% of the students. Only 5.2% of the children polled said that strawberries were their favorite fruit to eat. The variation ratio for the favorite fruit to eat of children attending Tahoe Elementary School was 55.2%. So here is our answer to Problem 3. It is a written description in words of the problem that describe all three important characteristics: the distribution, the central tendency, and the dispersion. This written description can be written in lots of different ways and still be deemed correct. So please feel free to write in your own voice. That is, as long as you correctly describe all three important characteristics correctly in words of the problem, you'll get full credit for your answer. Also note that the distribution here was listed for each of the separate fruits. That is, we, in words, described each of the percentages corresponding to each of the favorite fruits that were mentioned. We had to do this because the favorite fruit to eat was data at the nominal level of measurement, name only. There was no order. And since there was no natural order to this data, we couldn't use one of our descriptive terms for distribution, such as skewed or bell-shaped. So whenever the data is nominal like this, and there is no particular order, that is, the order that's displayed in this table was just based on the order we selected as we created the table, we can't use any of our descriptive terms like skewed or bell-shaped to make the description. Instead, in words of the problem, we had to mention each of the fruits and each of their corresponding percentages to make a complete description of the distribution. Also, we described in words the mode, which was apple. Here I used the term most of them mentioned apple, but you could also have said the mode was apple. So there's lots of different ways you can word this and still be deemed correct. Also, the order you present the description can be made in any order you want. Here I started off with the mode, then described the distribution, and then finished with the description of the dispersion or the variation ratio. You could actually write your written description in any order you want. Just make sure your written description is complete in words of the problem and mentions all three important characteristics correctly.